Welcome to another episode of the S.E.M podcast. Today we're joined by Adam Cummins. It's Jack and Zach back again. So Adam, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Billingham in northeast England.
Billingham. Very nice.
Yeah.
So to remind you of our format, Adam, we talk about how you ended up in Scotland, got on a mission, then we'll skip over and love to hear what you've been up to since the mission, and then we'll go back and reminisce for a little bit. So if you want to start us off with how you ended up on a mission.
Yeah, so I was brought up in the church myself, and it was something that I always knew I was going to do at some point. But it got to a point where I was 19 and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'll get round to it. I'll get round to it. And I never really did. It was one of those things where I was then thinking, I want to be ready to go. I don't want to go just because it's my turn. And so I was always active during that time still. And I think I got to about 21 and I thought, no, now I feel ready. Now I feel like is the right time. So I made all of those preparations and I ended up going at about age 22. So a little bit older than standard, than some missionaries, but I got there. But as I said, I was never wanting to just go because it was my turn, because I probably would have felt I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Maybe I wouldn't have put in as much effort as I could have done. It was more when I felt like I was ready to give as much as I can, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I respect that a lot because I think too many people just go because it is their turn and they're not quite ready. So
yeah,
that's great. What was the timing of that when you were when you left?
I left in October 2008.
Okay.
And I served for 25 months because I had the opportunity to extend for 6 weeks as well. So I finished then in November 2010. So
Wow,
nice
25-month mission.
That's great.
Many of us that wanted that extra time at the end here for sure. So that's pretty cool.
Well, us Americans couldn't even extend one day. We had to get back on the plane. So.
I know that was part of my thinking as well. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too much here, but that was part of my thinking that there's no visa issues. I'm like 3-4 hours away from home, essentially. I wasn't rushing back for like school or college or anything. There was nothing signed up. So I'm thinking, well, I'm enjoying it. Why not?
Yeah, awesome. That's great. All right. So 2010, you got home. Tell us what you've been up to since.
12 and a half years. Wow. So, so I'm currently married. I've got 3 children. I've got a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 6-month-old. So 3 quite close together. I'm half expecting one of them to burst in right now and kind of make all kinds of chaos. But I think my wife's handling 2 of them upstairs. One of them's asleep. So they take up a lot of time. I'm about a month away from finishing a social work degree. So I'll be a qualified social worker very soon. And I got a job offer a couple of days ago as well to start my first job at the end of June when my registration comes through.
That's awesome. Congratulations on graduating. That's a big deal.
Yeah, so I'm currently got the 3 kids to look after, obviously the house to run, finishing 10,000 words of a dissertation. A couple more assignments due in the next month or so. And then university will all be over and I'll have a big smile on my face and a big sigh of relief.
And a job.
Yeah,
good.
Being like the social work, like child protection and safeguarding and that kind of thing. So it'll be demanding in itself, but I think it'll be good.
Yeah. So your children, girls, boys, what do you got there?
Elijah is aged 4. Bethany is age 3, and Leah is age 6 months. So it's great. It's very hard having all 3 of them together, that close together, but they all love each other. So on the flip side, they've got quite a close bond, and it's nice just to kind of see them helping out with each other and and hugging each other and kissing each other, as well as a screaming 30-minute match over a puzzle piece. We get that in equal measure. It's classic.
There you go.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's great.
So have you been back to Scotland since you got home?
Yeah, loads of times. Yeah, I've definitely rubbed it in the faces of a few old companions and stuff. Just it's strange because, like, from speaking to a lot of Americans, 3 hours is, oh yeah, just a 3-hour trip up the road. It doesn't seem as much over there, but over in the UK, it seems quite daunting. Like, 3-4 hour drive. We best get ready, pack the car, all that kind of thing. But yeah, I was able to go up quite a few times, and it was kind of strange going back without the badge on, and a few people recognized me, and of course there's been changes and stuff since then. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice to go back.
Yeah, we're definitely jealous of you being able to just pop up.
Of
It's
course.
amazing.
Don't know how many people would remember me now, like 13 years later, but there we go.
Oh, that's rubbish. I guarantee plenty of people knew who you were.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, we can go back now. You can start the MTC, Scotland, wherever you want, and we'll just go through areas, companions, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so MTC was a fun experience. So that was over in Preston, Chorley, which is about 2 hours drive from my house. So that was 3 weeks, is just as standard. I think I was one of the last one to arrive that day. My stake president at the time, he was on business over in South Africa, and he'd just been called maybe a month before I'd started my mission. And so he was absolutely desperate to set apart his first missionary, but he was on business in South Africa and he wasn't back until like late, and he took an early flight to make sure he could do it. And so by the time I was set apart, because I think the MTC had said try and arrive at 10 a.m. that morning, he couldn't set me apart till like 3 p.m. So I was set apart 3 p.m., then got stuck in traffic on the way over after I was set apart. And I think I finally arrived at like 9 p.m. that night.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
My mission president was President Sorensen. And I just remember walking in, dark October night with my bags, and he's like, Elder Cummins, you've arrived. And I think he was thinking I was one of these that was going to be like a no-show or something. So they were probably putting this Elder Cummins guy down as someone that had quit before it had even started. So I think he was pleased that I'd arrived. And yeah, it was just very quick. It was just into his office, have a quick chat, and then off to my room. And I just remember that first night, it was the hardest because, of course, the rules said only 10:30 bedtime. And it was very hard to get to sleep because it was a Friday night. I was not used to being having a bedtime since I was about 10 years old or whatever it was. And so just like staring up at the ceiling, nothing to do. Everyone else was quiet. They were all Americans and they were all jet lagged, so they were fast asleep. So that was quite surreal. And then first morning, of course, 6:30, you've got a busy schedule in the MTC. So it was fairly easy to fall asleep at 10:30 after that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've got too much to add. It was just like, it was surreal in a way because it was very structured, which was good. It kept you busy, kept your mind focused. And I remember just kind of settling into the routine of it quite well. Just that little structure about, okay, be here, and here. And it was just fun because even on like your first P days and stuff like that, being out in Chorley Town Centre and just having a laugh with some of the other missionaries, and even like the Americans looking the wrong way if they were about to cross the street for the first time, because like they'd obviously arrived from the airport, been picked up and taken straight to the MTC. So our P day where we go shopping was their first experience of freedom. So it was kind of exciting in a way, going on that little journey with them, getting to see like a chippy for the first time, and just the way that England is.
Yeah,
quite nice.
I know my trainer saved my life a couple times just by putting his arm out. Yeah.
I mean, if I'd served in America, I'm sure I would have like had the same thing, and people could have had a chuckle at me. But that's fine. It's just how it works.
So, do you live in the Preston Temple District now?
No, so
Preston
and Chorley is Western England, and that's the England-Manchester mission. I live on the eastern side of England, which is the Leeds mission. And then directly above is the border with Scotland, which is the Edinburgh mission as it was.
Yep.
So England's, I think it only had about 5 or 6 missions at the time. I know they've merged a little bit since.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
All right.
MTC was great. We left a little bit earlier than anybody else. But I remember us leaving on the Tuesday, the Scotland missionary. So the 6 of us just were taken up to Chorley and just sent out on a train, and we arrived in Edinburgh late on that Tuesday night.
Who else was in your group?
So there was Elder Christopher Lewis, who I believe you had on a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So there was Elder Kevin Anthony from America. We had Elder Bowling. We had Sister Williams and Elder Frost. So there was just 6 of us. So it was just a smallish group that arrived up. So it was quite nice actually, because we arrived at the train station, and I just remember, like, again, it's a late October night in Scotland, and you get off the train, and just like the cold just like hits you. It's just even just 3 hours up the road from where I lived, it was just like a different kind of cold, and it just hit you. And I remember the assistants of President Frederick being waiting there with a big smile and a big kind of grin, and welcome elders, welcome to Scotland, and they were so excited to see us. So it was really nice actually. But yeah, it was a surreal train ride on the way up, and kind of thinking, 2 years ahead, and you don't know what's coming, and there's lots of excitement and nerves, but yeah, it's good.
So when you arrived to the mission home, what was kind of your experience from there?
That was a mixed one. I had a couple of shocks. Let's put it this way. I remember talking to the 2 assistants just on the way from the train station to the mission home. Just, how are you guys doing, and how are you guys finding Scotland, and how's it going? Just asking about the mission work. And I remember them giving me like quite short-ish answers and looking at themselves occasionally, and I did kind of wonder like what was going on, and I was just trying to like be friendly and everything, and we arrived, and I remember the elders were all kind of taken upstairs, and so there was 5 of us, and we were kind of given a bit of a telling off, but it was in a way of, right, these are the standards of the mission, and this is what you'll kind of live up to. But it was things like, ties got to touch your belt, no pink ties, product in your hair. The little clippy badges you weren't allowed on your suit. It had to be the sliding ones for your pocket and the sliding ones for your suit jacket. And there was all kind of these rules, and I was almost in a little bit of shock, because it had gone from like being treated like, like heroes is probably a bit of a strong word, but everyone treats you like a bit of a hero when you leave, and then when you arrive at the MTC, and then you arrive in Scotland, and then it was just a little bit of a shock to say, right, these are the standards. Looking back on it now, I think it was a good thing, but at the time I was just a little bit like, oh wow. That was a bit of a shock. And we just kind of slept on the floor that night of the mission home, and the next morning it was ready to meet our trainers. That was quite a good experience though, because the mission president there, again, the assistants were there. The 6 trainers arrived, and there was 7, because one person was going to be in a 3, and then there was the 6 of us, and we were all matched up. And I remember our trainers told us a little bit about their area. This is where I'm serving. We've got these really good members. We're teaching these investigators at the minute, and it's all really exciting. And so, and then they'd said, right, and the companion will be Elder Cummins or whoever, and you'd go meet them, give them a bit of a hug, and go sit back down. And yeah, it was quite good. As I said, after you got the initial shock of these are our standards, you better keep them, or else, in a friendly way, it kind of got back to, this is what's going to happen, and let's get your trainers. So it was an exciting time. It was.
Yeah. So who was your trainer?
My trainer was Elder Kuhn from Arizona. I think he'd been out about 10 months. And I was going into the Paisley ward. which yeah, so it was obviously quite a big ward. I think there was about 120 people attending at that time. I don't know if either of you two ever served in and around Paisley.
I was in Johnston for a short period of time, and
Oh,
from
yeah.
what I understand, Johnston and Paisley kind of became a combo
It did,
eventually.
yeah.
So,
What years were you in Johnston then?
oh man, fall of 2005 was when I was there. I was only there for a transfer, so a month and a
Okay.
half.
Okay, so I arrived about 3 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. But it was-
Making me feel old, Adam.
I know. Well, I went out a bit late, so I'm probably about the same age as you, to be honest. But
You're probably right. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was interesting because I loved Paisley Ward, I really did. But I'd heard from Elder Coon that there'd been a little difficult transition with the ward. From what I remember, the members of the Johnston ward had just arrived one day to church to be told, right, you've been merged with Paisley. I might be wrong with that, but that's what my vague memory tells me.
That's what we've heard on the
Yeah,
podcast
yeah.
from others.
We heard that story, which
So-
I can't even imagine how that was taken. That would have been crazy.
Yeah, it must be difficult. But I think from what I remember, that was maybe the June, July, August time of 2008. And then I'd arrived in the late October. So it was a big ward of about 120. And there was myself and Elder Coon. We had some Renfrew elders, which took the north part of Paisley. They just whitewashed in. And then we had the two Johnston elders. So there was 6 of us in that ward.
Wow.
So it was quite a big ward at the time, 120 people. So it was quite kind of daunting going in for the first time and seeing these 120 people there and not knowing who was who, and because we were told, right, they're your area, they're your area, all that kind of thing. I still remember my first Sunday there. I arrived and there was a lady with a black top on with a white skull, a white flaming skull on the top, and she had a shaved head apart from a pink mohawk. And in my judgmental way, I'm like, right, she seems like someone that isn't maybe a regular member or an active member. So I thought, right, I'll go make an effort. I'll go talk to her. And my companion was off speaking to members, making appointments, and I said hi and everything like that. And I remember, just to fast forward a little bit, I was in Paisley for 6 transfers, which is like 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember just kind of going down a members list just maybe a month or so before I left, and we were knocking doors, and I came across this same lady, and I hadn't seen her since. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I remember you. And whether she was lying, I don't know, but she's like, yeah, I remember you as well. And I was like, how come I haven't seen you at church in the last few months? Like, I've been here a while. And she's like, oh, my dog had hurt its paw. And I just remember seeing this dog with this tiny little bandage on the end of its paw. And I just remember kind of being lost for words, thinking, right, well, has that lasted 9 months? How would that stop you going out? Have you not left the house since? Just kind of all these kind of questions kind of popping up. But yeah, I just remember speaking to her, and she wasn't really interested in coming back anyway. But yeah, I just found that amusing, actually. But yeah, just going back to the early days at Paisley, it was the 29th of October that I arrived in the mission field. 2 days later was Halloween, of course. And so I was meeting the other 2 elders over at the church. And I think my trainer and the district leader were going to meet somebody, and me and his companion were going to go out. So we met at church, and there was an activity going on. And I still remember this. You had to walk past the church kitchen to get to the hallway. And as we were walking past the kitchen, there was a member there, and they were like, oh, here's the elders coming for the free food. I'm like, whoa. And that was kind of my first experience of like not being Adam, but being an elder in a way. Because I think missionaries have got this reputation, haven't they, of only showing up for the food and eating everybody out of house and home and just eating loads. And at the time, like, I know I've probably put a little bit of weight on now, but I was quite skinny. I didn't have that big of an appetite, and I was like, "Oh, hang on a minute, you don't really know that much about me, and I don't really eat that much." But it was just they were having a bit of fun. There was no kind of harm to it. It was fine. But I went into the hall. I met the district leader's companion. The district leader and my trainer were meeting some investigators or whatever at the activity. So me and the district leader's companion, we went out to do some finding for about an hour. So it was a dark, cold night. It was Halloween. And I still remember that day. We came across a bunch of Neds. Was that? Yeah?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
The Scotland famous. In England, they're called chavs. So getting them to call Neds was a little bit of a weird thing for me. There was about like 10 of them, and they just saw like two suited guys, you know, Bible bashers and all this kind of thing. And they started pelting us with eggs. So we had to, this was 2 days into my mission, so we had to do a little bit of a runner to get away from them. And I think they'd run out of eggs and they'd got bored. And the district leader's companion who I was with, you know, was checking his jacket, and he'd been hit 3 or 4 times, and eggshell had got into his pocket, and he was like, "Oh man." And I was completely and utterly untouched. So of course all the jokes about like Samuel the Lamanite came out, and I'm like, yes, and I must be the righteous one, and all those kind of jokes came out. But yeah, like the poor guy, he just kind of had his suit absolutely destroyed by eggs. We didn't find anybody, but we came back and he cleaned himself up, and yeah, that was that. So that was 2 days into the mission field.
Wow.
But, it'll be relevant later, but just to kind of backtrack a little bit. My first day in the mission field, of course, you're kind of over there in Edinburgh, aren't you? And that's where you get your trainers and everything. And we go back on the train all the way over to Paisley. And we were given a challenge by the assistants to try and schedule for baptism somebody on our first night. Sorry, no, not schedule for baptism, but speak to 3 people on our first night. And I believe try and schedule one of them for baptism. And it was a thing at the time where they were trying to encourage you to schedule people on the street if you could, and if the circumstances were right, and that was encouraged. But we'd been asked to speak to 3 people, and we'd got back to the flat about 5:30. And of course, that was the P days that we did the transfers to kind of cut down on wasted proselyting time. So P days finished at 6. So my trainer quickly rushed us to a supermarket where I remember stocking up on pretty much bread and peanut butter, and that was pretty much all I could get my hands on. That was my meal for the first 5 days of my mission. Came back to the flat, and then at 6 o'clock we were meeting a member to go on home teaching with him. So it was the 3 of us, and that lasted until about 8:45-ish, something like that. And that member said, "Oh, elders, I'll drop you off." And my trainer was like, "Oh, no, it's all right, we'll walk home." I kind of look outside and think, it's freezing, it's icy, it's dark, it's cold. We've been working all day. You know, we kind of finish at 9. What we're going to get done in 15 minutes. But he's like, no. He was absolutely adamant we were walking home. And of course, it's you proselyte till 9, or you can proselyte till 9:30 if you had like an appointment or something. And I think he was determined to make use of every minute. And we walked the 25 minutes home, and we literally only came across 2 people that whole night. But I got to speak to 2 people, and it was it didn't come to anything, but it was kind of nice to kind of feel that. And to then fast forward a little bit, I don't want to jump around too much, but this is relevant. So I told you I extended by 6 weeks, didn't I? So what would have been my last transfer, I was with someone from my group as companions, but he'd served in Ireland. And I'd obviously extended. So watching him kind of get his papers, wind down his mission, was everything that I would have gone through. And it was kind of weird seeing that happen when it should have been me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember on his last day, so what would have been my last day, We pulled up outside the flat and it was 10 to. I said to him, I had that same mindset that I had on day one. I said, right, come on, let's find one more person for you to speak to before you finish your mission. And so we went walking off in the cold, because again, it was October 2010 at that point. And we saw one young lad stood on the street. I can't remember if he was on his phone or what, but we spoke to him, got his details, great. Went back into the flat, and my companion finished his mission. And obviously, I would have done as well had I not extended. And over that next 6 weeks, it was really nice because we taught and baptized him. So it was a really nice experience. So the principle that I learned back on day one of my mission of, okay, it's 8:45, let's go and find someone because we've been challenged to, came back on what would have been my last day to still be useful, right? It's 10 to 9, it's dark, it's cold. You know, you've worked hard all day. No one would know if you snuck in 10 minutes early. It was able to find somebody. And I think that's always one of my top mission experiences, I think.
Yeah, what a great story.
I've told that in a few different talks over the years, and yeah, it's nice to hear. It always gives me goosebumps, and I think it's a good lesson to learn as well. I think not just on missions, but probably life in general.
Yeah,
Agreed.
So,
Love it.
yeah.
So after Elder Kuhn, who were your other companions in Paisley?
So I was with Elder Kuhn for 6 weeks, and I think because he was trying to make a good impression, I found that tough in parts because it felt like quite strict, and that was kind of me getting used to the mission as well. And he was kind of setting the tone for things. And after 6 weeks, he was transferred over to Springboig, and I received a companion called Elder Alan Slater. I don't know if you've had him on yet. He's from England as well. And he was in his last 3 transfers. So I served with him for those 3 transfers before he finished.
Wow.
And he was a good companion. He was great. I think we had a lot more in common. And yeah, we got on quite well. I remember just that there's loads about him, and I've told him this as well since, because I keep in contact with him as well. I remember one day that we didn't have much in the planner. We didn't really have any appointments, and it was just a case of, right, a few try-bys, bit of finding. And so I was with him from like mid-December all the way to April. But I remember over those winter months, it was a very, very rainy winter, very cold, very windy, very wet. And I always remember that one particular day, we didn't have too much going on, and it was a case of, right, let's go out and find. And we went out, got absolutely soaked. Our suits were kind of drenched. We came back in, put them on the radiators, got a change of clothes, went back out again, got absolutely soaked, came in, went back out again, got soaked again until we were out of suits. At the same time, like, I had like a hat on, I had a hood up, and I was trying to keep as warm as I could. And he was so particular about his hair that the entire time it was there being exposed to the elements, and he didn't dare put a hat on or a hood up because it'd mess up his hair. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Just kind of protect yourself. And there's no one around it. You've got no one to look good for. Just keep yourself warm. But he was a good guy. We had lots of laughs together, good success together as well. I had my first baptism with him, which was later that transfer. So he was a good guy. Yeah.
That's amazing. 4.5 months with him.
Yeah.
Did it fly by? Was it a tough one?
Yeah, it was. I think it was strange because everyone says your mission flies by. Your mission flies by. I think the first few months, kind of getting used to mission life, was a little bit slower. But never, ever, 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 I'll emphasize that at any point did I ever have any thoughts of going home. It just wasn't an option, wasn't to be considered. It was never going to happen. Full stop. But the first few months were still kind of a little bit tricky getting used to how things were working. And once I understood that, it was great. But yeah, and then time started flying by, really. Just, you get on with the work, you meet people in the street, you book appointments, you get excited, you you get disappointed by people, you get frustrated that they're not progressing, you get frustrated that they can't see what you can see. Yeah, enjoyed some good times with him. So
Great.
yeah. My last companion in Paisley was an Elder Hammond. So that was for 3 months, so 2 transfers. So yeah, that took me up to like 9 months in Paisley, which I think is quite uncommon. I've not heard of any other elders that have spent like, I think that's 6 transfers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in
Yeah.
that area. So
Yeah, that's incredible.
I must have had a purpose there, but there we go. But yeah, Elder Hammond was a good elder. He'd served in Beath. Do you remember Beath?
Yep.
Yeah, he'd been in Beath for 7.5 months as his first area. So him coming up to Paisley was quite a change, because Beath's all these tiny little villages connected by windy roads and buses that run every hour that sometimes don't show up. And he was good. He was a very hard worker, and I think he'd found it frustrating in Beath that he was quite restricted by the area. You could only do so much with buses that run every hour and that kind of thing. So when he got to Paisley, and it was a big, it pretty much is a city. It's almost connected to Glasgow, isn't it? And it's Scotland's largest town. So he was excited to kind of get stuck in where there was houses and people everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was good to work with him, and we had a baptism towards the end of my time in Paisley as well. So that was nice. But Paisley Ward was great. A lot of hard workers there, a lot of great members, and even kind of flipping back just slightly to one of my first few days there. Like, I remember arriving at the bishop's house, because my trainer got me to introduce to the bishop, and just straight away she was there, like making sandwiches and making us feel welcome. And I'm thinking again, back to the whole, you don't even know who I am, but you're making all this effort to kind of go out your way to kind of give us sandwiches and support us. And so yeah, Paisley Ward was great. Yeah, nothing bad to say about them, really.
Love it.
Yeah.
So then where'd you go?
So transferred to Springboig Ward after that. Strangely enough, replacing Elder Kuhn, my trainer. So he'd been there for the previous 7.5 months, and I came in and replaced him. Yeah. I was with Elder Andy Harper there. He was really good. I found Springboig quite difficult. It was known as a high baptizing area at the time. I found it quite difficult to adjust to in a way. It was mainly over in the east end of Glasgow. The members were fantastic. Are you too familiar with Sister M?
We've heard her name.
Mary McCulloch. Yeah, she was fantastic. She kind of took on the missionaries like grandsons and granddaughters, really. She was excellent. But I think as a whole, there was about 40 odd members there, and they met in a community centre. So that was my first ever experience of attending church in a community centre, which was a bit of a difficult transition, because, you're speaking to less actives, recent converts, investigators, come to church with us. Where is it? Oh, it's this community centre. And I found that quite difficult. Some people it might not bother, but for me it did. It was just like, it was quite hard to get used to. The members there were all fantastic, and I think they tried the best in the circumstances. But from what I understand, the previous chapel had been burnt down or something, and there was issues with them trying to either renovate it or build a new one. And even many years later, they were still in this community centre.
So I was there for 2 weeks on a short-term transfer, mid-transfer. And in the time there, I learned that apparently it was a group of Neds that had burned the place down. They had busted the windows out. And you were right. I mean, they tried to get the necessary funds to put the building back together. They just could never get it back where it needed to be. And was really kind of sad to hear that was the ongoing problem there, Yeah,
it's a shame, really. Because you felt sorry for the members because they were just trying their best in the circumstances that they had. It was difficult. I did manage to bring a few people to church there at the time, which was great. And whether the church community centre thing made a difference, I don't know. But maybe it was just something that I thought over and over about. But I arrived in Springboig on July the 1st. Now, July the 1st is, of course, when you get new mission presidents. That's when they start.
Right.
So President Griffiths had just started that day. And so that was the Wednesday that we did the transfers. And on the Sunday, I think it was about 6 p.m. and we were going from point A to point B, and our flat was in the middle. And I think one of us needed the toilet. So we thought, right, we'll pop into the flat, go to the toilet, and then continue where we're going because we were walking anyway. And we get to our flat, and you kind of buzz in to get into the block of flats, which was fine. But then when we got round to our flat door, the door had been kicked in. And the whole frame was broke. There was splinters of wood everywhere. And the door was half open. And we're like, what's happening here? And it was a fairly small flat, but it had 2 bathrooms. One was an ensuite and one was just your normal bathroom. And both bathroom lights were on. Nothing else was touched or taken or disturbed. If it wasn't for the door being kicked in, you would not have known you would have been broken in. So to this day, I don't know what happened. My best guess is someone was possibly in the bathrooms looking for medication. I don't know, because if you were looking for valuables, a missionary flat's not the right. A 10-year-old CD player, and I don't know. The Book of Mormons, unfortunately, were left untouched. The pass-along cards weren't touched. The pamphlets, no, they didn't take any of them. But yeah, they were in the wrong place if it was looking for valuables. So that's my only guess, to be honest, to this day.
Wow.
So my first conversation with President Griffiths, my new mission president, was, "Hi, President. So our flat's been kicked. Our flat door's been kicked down."
Oh man!
So
Welcome to the mission.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I know, East End of Glasgow. There's some rough parts of it. I'm sure there's lots of fantastic people there, but there's parts where there was a little bit tougher, I think. So, but I just remember he said, "Right, okay, we'll sort it," and someone was due to come the Monday morning to fix it all. So I've got a photo of it somewhere, but we literally just pushed all this heavy stuff up against the door that night and just slept with the door unlocked, like a bed base, a few kind of heavy bags, a few weights, just shoved up against the door and went to sleep as normal.
Wow.
Well, Springboig, it was a good area though. I enjoyed it over there. But I was only there for 6 weeks, which was strange. So after 9 months in my first area, second month it was just the 6 weeks. So I was then transferred over to Falkirk. So
Not too far then.
yeah, it's just east and east.
Different stake though.
Yeah, over to the Edinburgh stake. So scenery-wise, Falkirk I think was beautiful. It was a little bit more remote. It was a little bit more hilly. You could see a lot more green. Of course, I'd spent the first 10.5 months essentially in Glasgow, with high flats and buildings and everything everywhere. And Falkirk was also my first experience of a car. So that was a little bit of a novelty. The cars were interesting though, because you could fit more in, couldn't you, during your working day, but I found finding was harder. I don't know how it worked for yourselves, but we never once kind of went to a town centre and just spoke to people as they came past. It didn't really work. It was more, we book appointments in with members, less actives, recent converts, and as we're walking between them, we speak to everyone, and that's how we generate finding. So it's a little bit more difficult with the car to kind of generate as many, but those you did get, you could get through quicker. If that makes sense.
It's true. Yep. Very, very true.
Yeah. In Falkirk, I was... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say I served in Falkirk, but I didn't have a car.
Oh, you didn't?
So, no.
Oh, that must have been quite difficult, that.
It We spent a lot of time on the bus, but we did find, like you said, more people just as we're in transit.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
I was with an elder Philip from Sweden. He was only there for 10 days because he was finishing his mission slightly early to start university. It was only like 4 weeks earlier or something. And I was with Elder Bird. So we were in a 3 for those 10 days. But yeah, Falkirk was it was a fantastic area. And like mission wise, I did see a lot of success there. We started teaching like really quick. And I'm trying to think, about 5 weeks into serving there, we actually had like 4 baptisms in one day. It was a grandma and a grandson that had been baptized together. A part member family, I think the young lad was 12 and his mother was had started bringing him to church. She was starting to be reactivated. And then we'd had a referral where someone just like phoned us up one day. Like my companion didn't drive, so I did all the driving, and he just answered a call one day from someone. And I said, "Oh, what was all that about?" He's like, "I've got no idea. I couldn't hear someone properly." He's like, "But I think they're coming to church on Sunday." I'm like, "All right, okay." I said, "Who is it? Are they a member? Where do they live?" He's like, "I only caught parts of it because the line was bad, but let's look out for someone on Sunday, I guess." And as it turned out, we show up to church on Sunday and there's this guy in a suit and, he just looks like a member. But of course, we stand out and he comes up to us and says, "Oh, I was the guy on the phone and I'm interested in looking into your church. I've got a friend over in Australia and she's told me a lot about the church. And so I thought I'd come and check it out for myself." So we were really like lucky in that sense that someone just came to us. He knew a lot about the church. He was ready. And yeah, 3 or 4 weeks later, he was baptized. But it worked out so well that all 4 of them ended up being baptized on the same day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what a day.
4 baptized on the Saturday, 4 confirmed on the Sunday. And that's 4 weeks into Falkirk. I thought, yeah, Falkirk, great. Love it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really nice area it was. And I was only there for 3 months, and we had another baptism as well that was on my last Sunday there as well. But she'd been picked up and taught by the other elders, and she was a long-term investigator. And the only thing holding her back was she needed to be married. And she'd finally got married 2 weeks before I'd left, and then she got baptized a few days before I left. And yeah, so that was nice to see as well. So at Falkirk, it was a branch, but there was about 80 or 90 people regularly attending. So it was really, I don't know what it was like when you were there, but it was really like booming at the time. There was just loads of members coming. There was like obviously baptisms. It was really strong, and I think they were trying to like get it upgraded to a ward.
Yeah, I was surprised it was a branch because it was bigger than quite a few of the wards I served in. So
yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was a great area, Falkirk. I loved it over there. So I was quite surprised after 3 months.
Did you still have the McFeast on Sunday?
The McFeast.
Yeah. You'd know if you did.
Oh, that's not ringing any bells.
All right.
No.
That means it ended sometime. All right.
Sounds good.
Carry on.
Yeah. I then went to Kilmarnock. And as it happened, I thought it was a long time in Paisley at 9 months, 6 transfers. I ended up in Falkirk for 7 transfers, 10 months.
In Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was either in the long area or a short area, so I don't know. But there was 4 of us in Kilmarnock, and it was even the same kind of flat, the same part of Kilmarnock as well for 10 months. I didn't even do half and half. I don't know, like it's hard to sum up, isn't it? Like 10 months just in a few minutes or so, but Kilmarnock,
take your time.
Kilmarnock was an excellent ward. I think overall it was a fairly youngish ward in the sense of people who've been members there, and the bishop was Bishop Peter Cameron. He was absolutely excellent, like 10 out of 10. From what I'd heard, was he tried to serve a couple's mission with his wife, but I think health problems had not allowed it. And he was actually lived within the boundaries of the Paisley ward, so he was asked to be Bishop of Kilmarnock. I think they had a lot of new members there and less established members, if you like. So they had a bishop from the outside, and he was one of the hardest workers that I'd ever seen. So he'd travel the 45 minutes down to Kilmarnock every week. He'd literally spend about 30 minutes going around picking up members, recent converts, investigators before church started at 10. Priesthood was first, and then it was Sunday school, and then it was sacrament afterwards. And so he'd often miss Sunday school, then go spending that 45 minutes picking more people up, because there's certain people that only wanted to come to sacrament meeting. We'd have sacrament meeting, he'd have his meetings, then spend about half an hour dropping everybody off again afterwards. Like, the man was a machine.
Yeah, it's dedication.
Yeah, he was one of these that was like, we don't need meetings, we need to just bring people here. So he was less about the meetings, more about the driving around, picking people up all the time. One of the hardest workers I ever remember coming across, and yeah, he was fantastic. He worked at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but he was great. Yeah, Kilmarnock was great. I served with Elder Christiansen there. I was just his second companion. So he was getting used to how things worked still, but he was great. I got on really well with him. He was my first Utah missionary. So obviously you hear certain stereotypes about Utah, so it was nice to just kind of hear what it's actually like from him. Because you see things from like the RM and the best 2 years, and do you know what I mean? Little things like that, and the odd Mormon ad, and so it was nice for me to actually speak to him and say, "Come on, what's Utah really like?" And so it was good for me to learn that, I think.
So they just confirmed all the stereotypes.
Some of them were true but exaggerated, I think.
Yeah.
So, I've never actually been to Utah myself, but yeah, it looks like a beautiful place, to be honest. I think I'd like to go there one day, and I think I'd know lots of people there as well.
Yeah,
I'm sure you would.
Yeah. Yeah, my second companion there was Elder Young from England. I was his second companion as well. And he'd just come from Kilwinning, which was just across from Kilmarnock. And it was nice because we worked quite well together. And then we had his first baptism there as well. So it was kind of nice going through that process and seeing him get excited about a baptism for the first time and all of that. So that was fantastic. And then I was with an Elder Madsen, Tanner Madsen. I think he was from Utah as well. He was great, and he was absolutely loved in Kilmarnock because he played the piano. Like, no one played the piano there, and they had to use like a CD player sometimes. So when he came, everyone was just like in awe of him just because he was able to play the piano. So that was absolutely fantastic. And then I had my first opportunity to train as well in Kilmarnock. So I then spent the next 3 months with an Elder Sean Saunders. And yeah, he was great as well. And it was interesting because as I was training, I saw a lot of how Elder Kuhn trained me in myself when I was training, and I was able to see it from a different perspective. So that was really nice to see and to kind of get from another angle. And I even remember trying the same thing where I just picked him up and, it was fairly late on in the day. And I said, come on, let's go find someone. But at that time, there was nobody else around. But I tried to kind of instill some of the same things that I got taught early on in my mission with him. So, yeah, like the mission overall, like I know I've kind of skipped through a little bit, but I did see a big shift from start to finish, in a way about how the mission was run and how things changed a little bit. And Yeah, my last 3 months were in Glasgow ward in Julian Avenue. So I got to serve as a zone leader there, which was really interesting because it was a different side to the mission that I'd not seen before, and there was various meetings and extra responsibilities and planning that you had to do, which it was nice just to have like a little bit of extra responsibility at a time. And I know that sometimes that you did hear across the mission that certain missionaries were desperate to kind of climb that ladder, and that was kind of like the most important thing, or that's what it seemed. But I was very much kind of like happy to just go along with things, and if it came, it came. But that was nice being in Glasgow ward, because Glasgow ward again was another big ward, about 120 odd people. There was the Chinatown there, and we were close to the Chinatown elders, so it was nice kind of seeing them have their own little section of the Chinese speakers. Like even at church, he had the headphones on and he translated all of sacrament meeting, and
wow,
Chinese speakers were able to sit there with headphones on and listen in the ward, had invested in that, and I thought it was really good. Because I know in some units you do kind of, and maybe this is because it's bigger, but you do have like a Chinese speaking ward. But I like that everybody was integrated together. So the Chinese speakers got to know the regular members and vice versa. So it all became like one big family rather than being separated. But across the mission, I did see a big change, as I was saying. Towards the beginning, under President Frederick, it was a very strict mission, and there was parts of that I liked. There was parts of that were quite difficult to get your head around sometimes. For example, this is something. So it'll be interesting to hear your opinion on this as well, because I've spoke to many friends who've been on missions, elders that are currently serving in my ward, and I've never heard this before in any missions, but we had to set goals for the day, and our district leader would follow up with us probably 3 or 4 times per day to get numbers. I don't know if you've heard that from any other people.
We've heard it.
Yeah, fantastic. But I mean, from my perspective, I don't know if I'll be repeating myself or adding anything new, but I just remember you'd maybe get a call at 10 o'clock and it'd be like, right, okay, elders, how many investigators are you going to find by like 11 o'clock? And we'd be like, 1. Come on, elders, increase your faith, increase your faith. Okay, 2. And then that call had come at 11. How many investigators have you found? 0, 1. Come on, that's not good enough, elders. You made a commitment. These targets are set by the Spirit. Will you go back home and repent tonight? And because they used the phrase, will you, it was like you had to say yes. And then the same thing had happened at like 12 or half 12, and then again at maybe 2, and then maybe at 4, and then again at night at say 9:30 when it was reporting time. And that's kind of how it was for the first 9 months of my mission, multiple times a day. And it's that quote in Preach My Gospel, like when performance is measured, performance increases. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. I think that's what it was. And I think that quote was taken to the absolute extreme during those first 9 months.
Sounds like it.
It did help push you that little bit harder, but at the same time, it did create a bit of a bad feeling all the time, because you felt like you were possibly looking at numbers more than people in a way. So, but at the time, again, it was just, okay, I find it quite tricky, but that's what the mission is. I'm just going to suck it up and get on with it. I just assumed every mission was like that. So I thought, thousands of missionaries every year across the world do this. I can do it as well. And I just got on with it.
Yeah, Jack and I have talked about this, and the question that has gone through our minds is, what did the district leaders accomplish during the day when they were calling 3, 4, 5 companionships 10 times a day? Like, I can't imagine that. I would love to hear the perspective of the companion of the district leader at that time, who was just like, he's on another phone call. I can't do anything. I'm just sitting here waiting for this guy to do his job. Like, That just sounds crazy to us. I mean,
Yeah.
Jack and I mentioned that in a couple of podcasts. It was like we'd call our district leader on Sunday night, maybe see them on Monday for district meeting, and then we wouldn't talk to him until next Sunday. Like, it was completely different during our time frame in Scotland.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to hear the different side of it from you, Adam.
Yeah. The interesting thing was, though, like, obviously we had the old Nokia mobile phones, but we were restricted on the number of minutes. So what would happen was, I think the assistants would drop call the zone leaders would drop call the district leaders, the district leaders would drop call us. So we then had to use our minutes calling them back. So, and at one point, we were over on our minutes by, I can't remember, I'll just say 30 minutes for that week. So we had to have our phone confiscated for 2, 3, 4 days till the minutes had kind of made back up. But then the district leader was like, I still expect you to report so many times a day. So when you go to investigators' homes, ask if you can use their phone. When you go into members' homes, ask if you can use the phone.
Oh my gosh.
This was in my first 6 weeks, and I thought it was absolutely baffling. But I thought, this must be
That's
whatever
mental.
it's like. I didn't know any different.
That's right. You didn't know. That's crazy. Goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess eventually that went away, though.
It did, yeah. It was like that for about 9 months or so until President Frederick left, which coincided with me leaving Paisley. President Griffiths, when he arrived, he changed that slightly so that it was once a night rather than multiple times a day. And then I remember by the end of my mission, it was maybe 3 times a week or something. Maybe like Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays or something like that. So it eased off a lot. But I remember the big theme when President Griffiths arrived was the scripture of men should be anxiously engaged in a good cause and do many things of their own free will. And that you shouldn't need, I can't remember the phrasing now, but you shouldn't need pushing for everything. You can take responsibility and accountability for yourself. So it's just 2 different ways of working, really. President Frederick, I don't know whether he'd set a stall and then other missionaries had taken it upon themselves to run it like that, or whether that's specifically what he'd asked, or whether, I don't know any of the details behind it, to be honest. I just got on with it.
We're talking to the Fredericks in a couple of weeks. We'll ask them.
Oh, that's great. You know what? I'll definitely listen out for that. That'd be fantastic to hear.
It's interesting as we do this to hear how things evolve through different leaders, and that's at the missionary, the president level, just different ways of doing different things, and that reaches different people too in the mission. So,
well, that'll be interesting because a few times since I've finished, President Griffiths has come over to England and done mission reunions, and so I've heard from him and spoke to him a few times since I've finished, but I haven't with President Frederick. So it'll be nice to kind of hear him talk on your podcast in a couple of weeks. And
I'm going to make a suggestion to you. Reach out to them sooner than not, because they're actually going to be in the UK the week before we speak to them. So like the back half, I'm guessing either the end of April into the first week of May. So they may have something in the books, but just check in with them.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
So unless it's a personal vacation, they're going to hide from everybody. I mean, usually I would imagine that's not the case, but who the heck knows?
I know. Oh, that'll be exciting. I'm glad you've got them coming on.
Yeah, it'll be good. So I guess the question I have for you, Adam, when you went to Glasgow and as the zone leader in Julian Avenue, the mission had changed to the Scotland-Ireland mission at that point. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll rewind slightly back to February of 2010. I remember when that actually happened, and I was in an appointment, and we got out of the appointment and there was this voicemail on the phone, and President was able to send a voicemail out to everybody. And I remember sitting in this bus stop listening to it, and it was just like almost like jaw-dropping news at the time. I think I recorded it at the time, so I've actually still got recorded somewhere the whole conversation, the whole voicemail from President saying that the missions were going to be merged, and it was just like everyone was just stunned. It was like, how is this going to work? And there was just lots of kind of questions floating around at the time. So we found out about that back in the February, and then it became effective in the early July, because I think the mission president for Dublin was finishing, and so it was almost like they were going to be merging with us, if you like. And at first, from what I hear, it was quite tricky. There was differences of opinion. There was different ways of working. Let me think. I had 3 transfers of the Scotland Island mission. The first transfer of that was my last one in Kilmarnock. And I wasn't around. Oh, yeah, I was around one elder that was from Scotland, Elder Covey. I think is it dad or is his granddad does all of the, is it the books or something like that? Or
yeah, probably.
Yeah. And then
so he was originally an Ireland missionary.
Yeah. And then my first transfer of Julian Avenue was with Elder Kai Anderson, and I'd known him in the MTC and I'd gotten with him quite well, and he'd been over in Ireland, so of course then I became his companion, and as I said, what would have been both of our last transfers, but of course I had an extra 6 weeks. So it was interesting. So just little things like for 2 years solid almost, being told that no pink ties, no purple ties, they've got to touch your belt, your clip-on badges. Like these ones, you weren't allowed on your shirt or anything. These ones for the coats only.
Yeah.
All these kind of little things that had been made a big deal, like all of a sudden was different for them. And this is not to say that there's anything wrong with the way that they were doing things. It was just a different way of working for us. And it was kind of strange because we'd heard rumors like that in Ireland, they'd knocked a lot of doors during the day and that you'd go out chapping doors for 1 or 2 hours, whereas we were told like never to do that because it's not an effective way of finding and we've got to work other ways. So it was interesting combining the two. And let's have a look. Back in July of last year, President Griffiths was over in Northampton for a mission reunion, like a 10 years later kind of thing. And he spoke a little bit about that. And he said that it had actually taken about 8 or 9 months to fully get the mission feeling fully unified again. But one thing I told him this a couple of times. I said one thing that really impressed me about him at the time and the way he handled it was he'd been called to Scotland Edinburgh Mission. He was based in Scotland and he was running Scotland. He then took on the Island Mission. And it would have been very easy for him to say to all of the Island missionaries, you're with Scotland now, you follow our rules, this is how we do things, and isolate half the mission, but he didn't do that. He very much kind of settled between like a middle ground between the two to kind of bring everybody together and create more of a harmony. And I've said this to him a couple of times. I said I was always really impressed by the way he did that because it would have been very easy to go down the other route.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the changes were interesting at the time.
Wow. So Elder Anderson was your last companion for your last 3 months then, you said, right?
So my last 3 months was in Glasgow Ward. So he was my second last companion.
Okay.
And then my last 6 weeks was an Elder Rui Souza. So he's Portuguese, but he'd been living in England for a few years before his mission.
Mm-hmm.
And as coincidence had it, he was also trained by Elder Kuhn. Elder Kuhn's only 2 missionaries that he trained. And so as the mission saying goes, I got killed off by my brother. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so he was good to serve with. And the 6 weeks, like, yeah, I enjoyed that last 6 weeks. It was just really kind of surreal being there, and I enjoyed the fact that I'd been out in the field for more than 2 years, and that I had that opportunity to do that as well. Because I spoke to a few Americans, and again, they were saying something like, if we'd been allowed to, we would have liked to have done that as well. But obviously, I was in the lucky position that there was no visa issues, there was no problems with anything like that, so I was able to I was able to take that opportunity for an extra 6 weeks.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
it's great. So you've touched on it already, but do you have any other experiences with either President Fredericks or President Griffiths, their wives, that you want like to share?
They were both just like really amazing people. It's strange how close you get to your mission president. Like they're this complete stranger, and then you meet them, and then within however long of meeting them and getting to know them and being around them, you just kind of grow really close to them, and you gain a lot of respect for them. President Frederick was always very, he had the PowerPoints up there. He was very kind of like detail focused, and you very much kind of felt like it was structured, but you worked hard, you kind of followed it, and you got the results that way. And President Griffith was very much more of the open his scriptures and teach, and both were good in their own way, but it was nice to see how two different styles still worked. And again, President Griffith really impressed me because, so let's see, he arrived on the 1st of July and he'd booked zone conferences in like a week later. One zone conference was for 3 zones, the other zone conference was for 2 zones. So within 2 days, he'd met the whole mission. So I don't know how many missionaries there were there at the time, 100, 150, I can't even remember. But he'd memorized everybody's name. And that really, really, really impressed me. So he'd obviously got pictures of everybody, and before his mission, gone through however many of us there were, I can't even remember, and memorized everyone's face and name. And I loved it, the fact that, you know, you're in zone conference, president asks a question, elder or sister puts the hand up. Yes, elder, whoever. Yes, sister, whoever. Yes, elder, whoever. And he was calling everybody by their names when he'd essentially just met us. And I thought that was really, really impressive because, as I mentioned towards the beginning, sometimes as a missionary, you feel a little bit like your identity's been taken away a small bit. You know, like when I walked past that kitchen, it was like, oh, look, it's the elders coming for some food. So I think I noticed a lot of missionaries tended to like try and get the name out there so that they were remembered and they weren't just like another face and a badge kind of thing. So I really, really thought that was impressive of him to do that. It was really good to see. Yeah, like even with President Frederick, there was lots of good moments with him as well. And I still feel like that learning that structure and that discipline early on helped me because I was able to carry that through for the full 2 years. Even things like with my trainer just being like, for 8 o'clock, you've got to be shirt, tie, dressed, teeth brushed, shoes on, everything ready to go, because we'll have companion study, we'll have personal study at 8, companion study at 9, and then at 10 o'clock we can leave and be out by 1 minute past, rather than at 10 o'clock, right, where's my socks, where's my shoes, I need to brush my teeth, where's my bag, and then all of a sudden you're not out till 20 past, half past, and there's half an hour wasted. So little things like that, you know, you've got to be fully ready with everything but your jacket by 8 o'clock. So a lot of that structure I really liked because it helped set that like discipline and routine that kind of kept you up for your whole mission. So there was lots of good to that. I know there's these funny stories about the calls and the reporting, but I think a lot of the structure was quite good to help keep people on track, really.
Yeah, I know I missed just the missionary structure in general when I got home, right? There's nothing to tie it to for a little bit. So
I know. Definitely.
That's great. Well, you've said who all your companions were and some of the missionaries you served around with. Anybody else you want to shout out on the podcast?
Oh, the thing is, I could bore everybody on here for hours and hours and hours if I tried to think of everything. So it's hard just trying to narrow things down into a short time. I think it was really nice just to kind of see how close you got with members and how members were willing to kind of help and support missionaries. And I think even on a mission, like, there was a nice close bond between all of the missionaries you had. You know, you were all out there together. You were all away from your families together. You were all doing the same job. So it was a very kind of close. It was a very close, like, community, wasn't it? I mean, did you two feel the same thing?
Very
Absolutely.
much.
So that was really nice how everyone was able to support each other. Like, even I remember on our first Christmas when we were all together, because we were meeting up to go to the church service, and it was just all 6 of us were in one flat the night before, because there was going to be no buses the next day. And it was all like, you know, normally Christmas is family time, but we're our families now. And it was just kind of like nice to kind of experience that with all of the other elders. And I suppose even though you might not see many of them again, it was just kind of nice that you went through that experience together.
Mm.
And I always think back to the scriptures in the Book of Mormon, where, is it years later, Alma returned, and it was nice to see that everyone was still their brethren in the Lord. I think the scripture says.
Yep.
Yeah, when they come back to to Ammon and his brothers. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that was a part of the mission that, again, I wasn't expecting, but it was nice to experience. And it's interesting. Again, I don't know if you two felt the same thing, but before your mission, it's very much like you're going to go on a mission and you're going to baptize, you're going to help, you're going to change lives, and then you go through your mission, you come out and you kind of realize, well, hang on a minute, I'm the biggest convert here, almost, because I think going through that strengthens your testimony a lot more than maybe anybody ever realizes. So that was possibly one of my biggest surprises, but it was a nice one as well.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, your parents don't typically tell you that. They're like, yeah, go and baptize some people. But, you know, the growing up that you do, 2 years away from the comforts of home, I mean, it truly does. It changes the entire outlook of your future life because you went and did those types of things.
It does.
So
I think even from a practical point of view, like, I enjoyed the work on a day-to-day basis. And I've even based my career on, like, you know, social work, child protection, child safeguarding, what I'm about to be going into when my new job starts at the end of June. A lot of that I've based on some of the practicalities of what I did for my mission and how I enjoyed that role. You know, you were out during the day, you were visiting people in their homes, you were trying to support them. And there's a lot of similarities that cross over to social work.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons I decided to take that path, because of what my mission had taught me and because of the things that I'd enjoyed from it and what I'd learned from it. And even from a different point of view, I've had a few friends that have been on a mission and unfortunately are not active anymore, which is, you know, that's their choice. But I've always found that quite sad in a way as well. I think once you've been through those experiences together and you've kind of seen what you've seen and know what you know, I think it's hard for me personally anyway to understand how I could, like, then give that up. So I think it just, like, it strengthens you overall, a mission does. And I'm one of these that's the biggest advocates for a mission ever. If someone wants boring for an hour about what a mission's like or whatever, like, I'm the perfect person to talk their ear off for an hour and fully advocate for a mission and support it. And even though I went like 2 or 3 years late, I can still have that experience and say, listen, if you're not ready, that's fine. But if you feel you're ready, do it. It'll be the best thing you ever do.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that.
We've definitely, you know, speaking with people who served before and after us too, we feel the same brotherhood and that community, like you spoke of. It's just great to hear shared experiences. You know, things may have been done a little bit differently, but it was the same country, the same people,
It was, yeah.
And there's a lot of love there, and it binds you together. So really appreciate you coming on, Adam.
Yeah, well, thank you very, very much. I don't know how many people have thanked you for this, but I think you two deserve a really good shout out as well, because it's fantastic that you've got this record of all of these people's experiences, which would have otherwise possibly been lost to the mists of time or whatever, I don't know. But it's nice to kind of hear all these different experiences, and you've got this record there that'll be there around for years to come now. So
yeah, you bet.
I'm glad you guys have got the initiative to kind of set this up and to run with it and to give up your time to interview people. So I appreciate that. So thank you for your efforts.
We appreciate you coming on and participating. And the way that you can now help us, Adam, is we love member referrals.
Fantastic.
One question I have for you, and so we've found from a couple of missionaries, there's a contact list you're given at the end of your mission. Do you happen to have your era's contact list still at all potentially?
I do, yeah. I probably can't show you because of this laptop camera, but
here's what I suggest you do for me.
There's my little boxes. It's in there somewhere.
If you can scan it to us, we'll add it to our contact list, because ultimately what we've decided is we're kind of covering from July of 2001 to July 2010, and you're in a little bit of that exception because you had your full time in Scotland, but you had a portion of time when it was the Scotland Ireland mission. But we'd love to have a contact list of every missionary that was in that mission for 10 years essentially. And so yeah, if you could send that over, we would love it. And then it'll help us document who we've talked to, and it adds more those that we need to hunt down in the future.
Yeah, of course. Well, I still keep in contact with a couple of people, and I can definitely send the referral their way as well. So fantastic.
Great. Well, thank you. Good luck on your dissertation and wrapping that up and starting your career and everything. That's fantastic.
Last 2 weeks of that are going to be just intense, and then I can breathe a sigh. Mid-May time, I'll have finished everything, and I can breathe a sigh of relief. And then I'll have a month off before the job starts. So
you got it. Great. Go get it, Adam. We believe in you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That makes it extra, that you took the time to do this. We really appreciate it. So we love you, Adam. Best of luck.
Thank you for having me on. Speak to you later. Bye.
All right, mate. Cheerio.